Hi, I'm Scott Cosenza, along with Graham Noble, Dave Patterson, Lisa K. Donner, and John Clark, and this is the Conservative 5, Liberty Nation's online video news program. On today's episode, Shutdown shift, Trump pivots abroad, excuse appearances at the White House, and Trump's big ballrooms, we run over the outrage or building improvements. Then in MAWA, Harris-Newsom 2028, we review Kamala's prospects of becoming the 48th president of these United States, with Newsom as VP for a kicker. In Donald J. Trump, Citizen of the World, we'll look at news out of Asia and Trump's trip east. Is he escaping shutdown shrapnel or suing for peace in a meaningful way? Then in Just for Fun, we run down the best, worst, and spookiest stuff for All Hallows Eve in Just for Fun Volume 81. All this and more on this edition of the Conservative 5.
In college, one of the guys went as sperm.
President Trump has directed the remodeling of the White House to include an ample ballroom space. The hue and cry from his political enemies has been outsized. Has this act shaken the very core of our collective experiment in self-government? Or is it a giant nothing burger? Or somewhere in between? New Mexico Congresswoman Melanie Stansbury didn't just read about the destruction. She put on her walking shoes and stopped by 1600 Pennsylvania Avenue to see the project for herself. Let's celebrate her grit and courage.
I just got off a plane from Albuquerque and I had to come down and see it for myself. And I'm outside of the entrance, the security entrance to the East Wing, and the East Wing is literally completely gone. There's nothing left. From here, all you can see is nothing. Just from here straight to the White House, to the house itself. They managed to literally tear down the entire East Wing in 4 days. You know, and it's such a metaphor for what's happening right now. Our democracy, Constitution, the rule of law. 4 days. Literally 4 days. Donald Trump tore down the East Wing in 4 days. This is literally one of the most historic buildings in the United States. No permit, no permission, no congressional oversight, no appropriations. He just went and did it.
John Clark, is the administration on any shaky ground constitutionally here? If Congress has the power of the purse, don't they have to approve any expenditure?
Well, I think that is in debate, and many on the Democrat side are claiming that the administration is acting illegally, but really these are private funds for a public purpose, and most of the laws are around preventing the exact opposite, using public funds for private gain. Senator Blumenthal of Connecticut has alleged that this will allow unfair influence by donors, and yet the money's going to improve a public asset, which will be there for future generations. So I don't think there are a lot of teeth in it. Under Article 1, Section 8, Congress has the power to levy taxes. Under Section 9, it has the power to do the expenditures. I'm not aware of any lawsuits that have filed. The Anti-Deficiency Act may apply. It seems that it would apply to executive actions, but once again, that's geared towards expending public funds. So I'm not sure there are any real teeth there, though you might have some insights.
You know, it's surprising to see such criticism from Senator Blumenthal, is usually, you know, such a team player for for any new Trump initiative. Lisa, just because something's legal, that doesn't mean it's advisable. Does this give you the ick? And if Barack Hussein Obama got his frenemies to fund some construction project you didn't like, would your answer be the same?
Well, this would only give me the ick, Scott, if it hadn't been done by Jackie Kennedy, who got the Rose Garden funded by Paul Mellon and his wife Bunny, and Nancy Reagan. It was Nancy Reagan who got a lot of private funding for new dishes and china in the White House. So, you know, this has been going on for a long time. Also, I do believe Jackie Kennedy's renovation of the White House, which was extensive, and no Republicans were walking through each room saying, "Oh my God, look at the demolition of X." You know, that was done with public and private funds too. She raised a lot of money for the White House.
One can only wonder what Stansbury would have thought walking past the James Madison reconstruction after the British burned the building to the ground in 1812. You can imagine that she would have had a significant case of the vapors.
Yes, that's a really good way to put
Dave, you stepped on my question for Graham Noble, which was that he has fought for the crown against insurrectionist colonists before, and I was wondering, did we just see Trump basically finish the job that they tried in the War of 1812 to demolish this building?
No, but apparently Eric Swalwell wants to revisit the demolition of the White House. He's calling for whoever wants to run on the Democratic ticket in 2028. He's demanding that they pledge on day one to demolish this ballroom. But it's of course it's so silly. I mean, previous presidents have put in bowling alleys and swimming pools and a basketball court. A president who doesn't even know how to play basketball put a basketball court in there. And this is the richest and most powerful country in the world. And when we have state dinners here, we have to put up a tent and get some folding chairs and tables out for a state dinner. The White House should have a wonderful facility like this to host foreign dignitaries and big functions and so on. I think it's great.
I'll just weigh in and say I disagree with you, Graham. I think that a tent or less is a great thing for our leaders to go ahead and contend with. I just can't abide the hypocrisy. I just can't pretend that if this was Barack Obama literally raising the and making it the Black House or something else, it wouldn't be greeted with hosannas and celebratory lauded. Instead of having the random architect who's critical, you'd have the ones that are favorable. By the way, just a note, that video from Representative Stansbury went on for over 4 minutes, and not once does she turn the camera to show the construction. It was so outrageous she couldn't bring herself to show her audience. So this must be having some political wins. And I'll ask anybody who has an opinion about it to weigh in. This must be getting good political wins for them from something, or else why would they engage in it?
Yeah, I think one of the things that always has to be taken into the calculus here, and that is that no taxpayer money is being spent.
Yes.
So I would submit that the anti-deficiency rules, which require you to not obligate funds for which there is no appropriation, wouldn't apply, because not only is there no appropriation, but there's no authorization. There doesn't have to be. You've got individual donors who are making a significant addition to the White House. And I think that's a good thing.
Let me just say one thing.
They didn't pull a permit.
We have a president in office who knows how to build things. This is what he does for a living. This is how he's made millions upon billions of dollars. So, why are we picking on him? Of course, you have to demolish before you rebuild. I mean, has anybody ever put in a new bathroom? It's a holy mess until they start fixing it up again, but they have to demolish.
I think it's worth noting, that on the left, within the left-wing echo chamber, this whole business about this ballroom being privately funded is not. People don't believe that. On the left, people literally believe that Trump is stealing the SNAP money in order to build the
right.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, that's the best way to frame it, I guess. If you can juxtapose those two, the deprivation of basic necessities and a luxurious looking mock-up of a ballroom, that's a nice place to be politically.
Right. And why do they believe that? Because they're told that by the left-wing media. That's why.
Yep.
I think, too, that you look at scale here. If you were looking at and comparing scale, Harry Truman by far exceeded just simply putting up a ballroom. He totally gutted the inside of the entire White House and spent his time in Blair House for about 3.5 years.
Thank you so much, panel. I think I've had a reputation of not trusting anything in government generally, but if even Donald Trump's enemies don't claim that he came in over budget and over time on construction projects. So perhaps it's the one weak point for them to criticize. Thanks, panel. If at first you don't succeed, despite her lack of electoral success in the primary and general elections, Kamala Harris is thinking about running for president again. Before I run screaming from the room, let's hear from our panel about a potential Harris-Newsom ticket in 2028. As LL Cool J said, don't call it a comeback. Here is Kamala Harris making news with the BBC.
Stories of your baby nieces, Amara and Leela. When are they going to see a woman in charge in the White House?
In their lifetime, for sure.
Could it be you? Possibly. Have you made a decision yet?
No, I have not.
But you say in your book, I'm not done.
That is correct. I am not done. I have lived my entire career a life of service, and it's in my bones. And there are many ways to serve. I've not decided yet what I will do in the future beyond what I am doing right now.
Always tirelessly in service, Kamala persists. Could this be MAWA country in 2028, making America woke again? Lisa, do you see any appetite among Democrats for a renewed Harris for president campaign?
You know, Scott, I don't think there's ever really been an appetite among the Democrats for Kamala Harris. I think she just keeps getting shoved down their throats because she fits some kind of, box that they want to put people in. Everyone has to be inside a box, and Kamala Harris fits a couple of them. So they keep running her up the flagpole, and nobody is saluting over and over again. So I think this is a non-starter. And everybody, and not to jump ahead, but everybody in the world knows that Senor Hairgel is going to run from governor of California. And he could beat her easily.
Yeah, I thought it was funny, too, that this would-be leader of America didn't even give the scoop to an American production, by the way. She gave it to the BBC. How funny is that? John Clark, you're very active in retail politics, including running for office. Having vice president and president from the same state does seem sort of preposterous to a political dinosaur like me, but in a world where Donald Trump is in his second term separated by almost a prison sentence, is it so wild? Could they do both Harris and Newsom on the same ticket?
Well, I think they surely could, but one thing that has not changed is that traditionally candidates are selected from different geographical areas. And to pick two candidates from California, I really think would be potentially a weak ticket. How would the Southeast, for instance, feel represented? And so a lot of that might hinge upon how California is presented as well. As Lisa mentions, the hair won't do it. AOC has nice hair, too. As far as her running in the MAWA idea, on the Republican side, I think that they would be delighted to see Kamala Harris run again. It's almost a sure win, unless maybe Jasmine Crockett is in the ring. But I do think that you're correct what you point out. Traditionally, both parties try to select candidates that are representative of maybe rural America or certainly different parts of the region. If California is viewed by many people in rural America based on what Los Angeles looks like, even though it's a large economy, and there has been discussion of California seceding from the Union, that's not a very unifying message. So I think that would be a double weakness.
Graham, could they run and run away from wokeness? It seems like woke is sort of their brand in a way. And that, many of those in the country seem to have lost an appetite for it, but it doesn't seem like Newsom and Harris have. Is that a thing?
Well, yeah, that is a problem. And of course, it's interesting that Newsom from time to time will sort of pretend that he's not really woke. He'll once and now and again, he'll speak out against some of the things.
Agree with you on that.
But then again, he goes and does them. His policies very much reflect the fact that he's all in on the whole woke thing. I think a Harris-Newsom ticket or a Newsom-Harris ticket are non-starters. Because, you can't have two candidates both from California. It's just that's a non-starter. And also, neither one of those two is going to play second fiddle to the other one. So it could be, that Harris may well run for president, Newsom may well run for president. They may well be battling it out between them. I don't ever see a point in which there is a Harris-Newsom presidential ticket.
We've seen in the past some enemies of certain political ideologies or candidates fund particularly odious examples for the other side in order to kind of present the worst possible example for then people to turn their attention. So could we see Mrs. Sheldon Adelson or any of the other major GOP backers try to fund a Harris-Newsom campaign as a, sort of a stalking horse for a nothing burger?
I don't think so. I think that's a Democratic strategy. Republicans don't normally do that. I mean, they of course could, but not historically. But it's really interesting if you think about it. The Democrats right now are in a position where they're taking all of their Jell-O wannabes and throwing them against the wall and see what sticks. And right now, they're all kind of dripping down in unison. But I think that if you look at some of the crowdsourced odds markets, and if there are any indication in a group of 20 potential candidates, Harris comes in 20-1 odds against nomination. And that's important because, they have to go through a primary first. And that's where Harris was weeded out even before the voting began. And it's entirely possible that could happen once again. You mentioned Laura Kuenssberg and her interview of Harris. It is interesting that that Harris would be trailing in a notional competition with Hollywood actor Dwayne Johnson, and he hasn't even said that he was even considering being a nominee.
I missed that, Dave, on the BBC production. Go ahead, Lisa.
Somebody correct me if I'm wrong here, but I do believe that George W. Bush, 43, and Cheney were both from Texas, even though Cheney, of course, is a Wyoming guy, but he was living in Texas at the time.
No, that's exactly right.
Yeah.
And it bears witness to that the fact that two candidates, the vice president and president from the same state or region, right. that may be old hat these days.
Yeah, but I just wanted to bring that up because it did happen relatively recently, and I believe Cheney had to go and reestablish residency in Wyoming. But,
Well, he didn't have to establish Wyoming residency in order to be on the ticket. He may have done so because it was advantageous, but there's no requirement for diversity.
There is some kind of requirement that it's not about the two states, but there is some issue there. I can't remember what it is now, but he had to get out of Texas and reestablish in Wyoming. I can't remember why. Does anybody else remember that?
No, I think it's primarily convention, Lisa, as opposed to anything that's hard.
The Constitution is silent on the status of state residency,
I'll go to the information Bible when the show is over, or better yet, why don't some of our viewers look it up and correct me? That would be good.
I just think with this, though, to me, it's all a matter of. I think it's easy for a president and a vice president from, say, Texas or many other states could get away with it. I just don't think a ticket where both people on the ticket are from California, of all places.
Yeah.
Because there's just a certain, a lot of the rest of the country looks at California, the West Coast elites, they don't know anything about the rest of America, so I just think to California, regardless of constitutionality or legality or anything else, I just think, two Californians running together. No, I don't think the rest.
I agree, Graham. That raised the question for me as well, which is why I presented it. It just seems so, especially in this time where you would think that both of them would be trying to inch away from the woke reputation that they have.
Let me just say one thing. Does anybody remember the old song by Sade, Smooth Operator?
Yes.
Okay, that's Gavin Newsom, in my humble opinion.
Thanks, panel. One point that I think is seldom reported on with as much attention that it should be is that the trappings of power, regardless of what people would have do with them, conservative or liberal influence, influences these decisions. It can't be understated how great it must be to just get in a car, go to the airport, no stoplights, No traffic lights. You fly wherever you want in the world. Somebody else pays for it. You don't even wait 10 seconds. So maybe that's part of it too. Thank you. Looking to remodel your rumpus room? Book a flight for me, please. Anyone who's undertaken significant home improvements will tell you it's better to avoid being there while the sausage is being made. President Trump, amid his great big ballroom project, has taken off for Asia. Is it a war-ending peace mission or an escape from the sound of saws? Or could it be something else, like the government shutdown has him flying all over the place? Graham Noble, Liberty Nation's chief political correspondent, has been covering the shutdown for us and focusing on the blame game. Which party is feeling the heat the most, Graham?
Well, it usually turns out, Scott, that somehow, whenever there's a government shutdown, the Republicans get blamed for it. That seems to be always the way it goes. And then, of course, usually what happens is that they'll cave in behind closed doors to whatever the Democrats are demanding, and that's how the shutdown will get ended. This time around, I think everybody kind of knows really where the blame lies, that this time the Democrats are absolutely being held to account for it. 13 times now they've voted to block the continuing resolution that would open the government back up again. I think they're among their voters and among the people behind the scenes in the party. They all know that this is their shutdown. They own it. And I don't think there's any getting away from that. So, Trump is off on his trip overseas. I'm not sure when that trip was planned. It was probably planned before the shutdown anyway. But certainly is a good time for him to get away from the construction and from the shutdown. Perfect time for him to be trotting around the Far East making business, making trade deals.
Graham, it was planned with enough time to have the pre-printed banners that declared Trump as some kind of peacemaker. In fact, he has declared himself the greatest peacemaking president in history. Let's take a look.
So as you know, this is one of 8 wars that my administration has ended in just 8 months. We're averaging one a month. There is only one left, although I heard that Pakistan and Afghanistan have started up, but I'll get that solved very quickly. I know them both, and the Pakistan, the Field Marshal and the Prime Minister are great people, and I have no doubt we're going to get that done quickly. That one started up a few days ago. And I just feel it's something I can do. I do it nicely. I don't need to do it, I guess, but if I can take time and save millions of lives, that's really a great thing. I can't think of anything better to do. But the 8 wars that my administration has ended in just 8 months, there's never been anything like that. Never. There never will be either.
Former E-ring regular Dave Patterson, does that ring true to you? Has he really extinguished 8 wars?
Well, I think there's a case to be made that President Trump has been pretty influential in bringing either peace or ceasefires to a number of conflicts. Some significant and long-lasting fights like Azerbaijan and Armenia, that's a quasi-war that's been going on for 30 years. And when you look at Thailand and Cambodia, they have been fighting over a border for nearly 70 years. And so, while in Kuala Lumpur, Trump participated in the signing of a peace agreement because both parties saw President Trump as being highly influential in bringing peace to the Thai-Cambodian border. So, but you got to give it to him. Trump has been very clever where other presidents have not even thought about this, but he's been very clever at bringing conflict nations to peace agreements when he threatens them with severe economic consequences. And, money talks.
He has done that and mentioned in his talk, I can't remember if it was in the broader remarks or what we played, but about leveraging that economic threat, which I thought was certainly better than leveraging a military threat to encourage the peace.
Well, he said to both Pakistan and India, if they didn't stop fighting, he was not going to do any more business with them ever. And they stopped fighting.
Yeah, he uses business as his main weapon to get these people to march to his drummer. And he's been very effective at it. It's really a very smart strategy when you think of it, and you wonder why it hasn't been done before. Don't you think, John?
Well, I do, but on a deeper level, this is a president who is rebuffing characterizations of being a hawk. He has however many conflicts we want to count to his credit, even in his first administration, he has bucked the often bipartisan warmongering of this country. And he pulled this out of Syria. I thought Dave might have mentioned that one. He's definitely does not fit the mold of somebody who is hawkish. And that stands in contrast, some would argue, to the prior administration and even the Obama administration. So I think he gets extra credit for trying, and that the optics are that he is a person that opposes war by hook or by crook. The fact that he can bring business interests in, and it just shows he's genuine. That's just one of the tools. But underlying it all is, I think a lot of Americans are sick of wars, and particularly military families don't want their loved ones embroiled in every conflict around the world and don't want this country to be the world's policeman. And he has shown a consistent commitment to reduce our involvement in foreign conflicts and also broker peace where he can.
Okay, you made a really good point about Trump, but who else did they say was the big hawk? Let's connect history to this. And he turned out to bring peace. Who was that? Who can remember? What president?
Richard Nixon, for one.
And Ronald Reagan. He was the big hawk.
Right, exactly.
Right. I just needed that. We needed to acknowledge that point because they did the same thing with him. And then the Berlin Wall comes down, So we need to have a sense of history as well.
Yeah, good point.
Well, I think that history also includes Bush in the Iraq War, which didn't go well. So this is a good departure from that. And that's, again, a contrast between some who would say that the Republicans are the party of war. Donald Trump does not fit that mold at all.
Right.
Graham, have you been following any of the saber rattling with Venezuela and Colombia by any chance? And does that give lie to the notion that the Trump walks away from wars rather than enters them?
Yeah, I think that's it. Well, I would say this anyway about Trump. I don't think he's any kind of. It's not that Trump is anti-war. It's that Trump is pro-trade, and he would much rather we all spend our time, the countries of the world trading with each other than fighting with each other. When wars are happening, you can't do trade, and Trump that's what he wants. He wants trade, and that's why he wants peace. I don't think it's so much that he's some kind of pacifist or particularly anti-war. And yes, Scott, you mentioned, of course, the South American countries now that we are having some friction with, Colombia and Venezuela, of course. And I think Trump's hawkishness particularly towards Venezuela, is, and don't get me wrong, I'm no fan of Nicolas Maduro, but I think Trump's kind of abrasiveness and hawkishness towards Venezuela does kind of give the lie to the fact that Trump is the great peacemaker. I'm personally not a big fan of America getting involved militarily in any other countries. I personally don't at all mind that they're blowing drug boats out of the water, but that's just me. But yeah, it is difficult. The Venezuela situation does kind of conflict a little bit.
Suspected drug boats, right?
Oh yeah, well they could be fishing.
True. I suspect they were in fact drug boats. What I have a problem with, from my perspective as an advocate for liberty, is when the administration calls those people terrorists instead of saying that we blew up a bunch of drug dealers, because it's the death of language that we fought so hard against with the most recent administration, and how they use the destruction of language to turn Americans against one another. And of course, Orwell has campaigned against this. And what I think made him great is the demand that free people require adherence to, a true language, and to call would-be drug dealers or drug transportation people terrorists, I can't abide.
That's a really good point.
But Scott, let's put your historical hat back on. Under the Reagan administration, they were first called narco-terrorists.
Right.
So you have to remember that the moniker of terrorism has been around a long time. And in terms of the danger and of the hostility of the narco-terrorists to the United States, I think they live up to that name.
Dave, I think that you might be ascribing something that, so I hear what you said, and I'm familiar with that term from that era, but I think that that was more associated with groups that were funding their own military activities with profits from like the Sandinistas, perhaps, or the Contras, rather than these groups which seem to be only about profits and using violence.
It was actually the FARC in Colombia.
Right. Okay.
Right.
Yeah. And they had motives outside of profit, which we presumed is all the cartels are interested in is massive profits, right?
Well, when your motivation is to expand your territory at the expense of other sovereign nations, then I think you fall into the category of terrorism.
There are allegations that these cartels have used their Venezuelan earnings to compromise American elections. And I don't know if that's true, but there's certainly...
I don't think the people in the boat who got blown up were terrorists in any way. That I think that the average American, when they hear the United States military used bombs to kill a bunch of terrorists, 14 terrorists today is basically what they said. And then they find out later they were running, coke up from South America to LA, basically. Does that really comport with what they understand as terrorism, or is that designed to make them think something else, which is what I think it is?
They just call them drug runners. Why don't they just call them drug runners?
Right.
I agree with that. Yeah, I was just speaking to Dave's point that sometimes perhaps, and yours, that narco-terrorists was implying a broader purpose than merely selling drugs.
I think, Scott, you're suggesting that the soldier who has KP duty is not more than a KP dish and pan washer and not a soldier. I take great issue with that. No, they're terrorists and they're doing the work of terrorists.
Well, we agree to disagree. This has been good.
Yeah, and I'm just going to chime in and say that I'm with Scott on this one. These people are drug runners. They're the guys in the boat are mules. They're drug mules. They are simply shifting drugs from one place to another. I don't consider them to be terrorists personally. I mean, not that it puts the drug cartels are not on some kind of morally higher platform than terrorists. They're all in the same gutter as far as I'm concerned. But yeah, I don't really consider the drug cartels to be terrorists, even though it's entirely possible that they've dabbled in terrorist-like activities within their own countries for their own advantage, perhaps. But yeah, I mean, there's drug cartels and there's terrorists.
All right. Well, thank you, Graham. Thank you, panel. We will stay tuned. If there's a reputation out there, don't get involved in Afghanistan, because that's a sticky wicket for any power that goes into it. The war on drugs, I think, has got Afghanistan has got nothing on that. So we'll see. President Reagan presided over a win over communism, but his drug war was a ringing failure. So hopefully, we don't see more of that with the Trump administration. Politicians sow fear for breakfast, but it's not all furloughs and Facebook bans on the C5. It's time for Just for Fun, All Hallows Eve edition. All right, get your drugstore candies and costumes ready. Let's go ahead and go around the horn. We've got a few questions in the offing. Graham, why don't you go ahead and pick a number for me, please, from 1 to 5?
3.
3. What is the best horror character? Jason Voorhees, Chucky, Freddy Krueger, Mike Myers? Anybody else?
Well, I think The Thing with James Arnaz as the monster. That's my favorite.
What about Vincent Price? Am I too old for you guys? I remember Vincent.
Bela Lugosi.
Right, Bela Lugosi was good too.
They had good
freaked out.
They had good voiceovers, but as terms of actual horror characters, I think for me it's Freddy Krueger.
Freddy Krueger for me.
You can't even go to sleep to get away from it. That's what's mostly terrifying about it.
Yeah.
I've never even watched the movie, and I'm afraid of him.
Yeah, I've never watched it either. I'm afraid to watch it.
I'm actually glad that everyone jumped in on this before I could give my answer, because I don't know what my answer would be, because I don't watch those kind of movies. It's not that I've always found horror movies tremendously uninteresting. And so I couldn't even have given you a possible answer to that question, because I don't know who these characters are. I've seen clips of some of these movies, but I've never watched any of them all the way through. So I couldn't tell you which character I think is scary or not.
Well, you've seen Jason in his hockey mask, right?
Yeah, right. Okay, yeah.
Well, here's the thing about him. He has a big knife, and no matter how fast you run, his walking will catch up to you eventually. So that's what makes him terribly scary.
Okay. Does anybody remember Chiller Theater? Every Saturday night in Pittsburgh, where I was growing up.
In the Chicago area, it was called Shock Theater with Artie.
Oh, that's really
We had
interesting.
Creature Feature.
Oh, that's good too. All right, what did you have in Philadelphia, Scott?
We had some Nickelodeon thing with like Gilbert Gottfried. You know what, John? Do you know what I'm talking about? I see you halfway nodding there. Is that
I remember Gilbert Gottfried.
Up All Night? Was it called?
Andrew today.
Yeah.
Oh, that's really weird. But Philadelphia did have, on another subject, they had Dick Clark in American Bands.
Yeah, well, that is too different of a subject. Let's get back to the bar.
But
maybe Morgana, Mistress of the Night, was one of the co-hosts of that show. But anyway, all right, let's go ahead and ask. I'll turn to Lisa for her Pittsburgh youth and ask, what was your best Halloween costume?
Oh, well, first let me say that my birthday is on Halloween. So when I was a little kid, I thought everybody got to dress up and got candy on their birthday. I really did. So my mother was like, no, that's not how it works, But anyway, what was the question?
What was your favorite or best Halloween costume?
Oh, my favorite was a gypsy. My mother decorated me up.
Can you even say that word in 2025? I don't think you're allowed to, much less actually effectuate an outfit designed to...
I obviously loved and I still love Halloween.
Dave Patterson, we don't want to hear about any blackface or other face that you may have engaged in that doesn't meet current standards. Do you have the best?
I didn't actually have a best Halloween costume, but I saw the best Halloween costume on The Big Bang Theory, where one of the characters holds out his arms and he has lines, black lines on him. As they come close to his torso, they become thicker. And he went as the Doppler effect.
Oh, that's funny.
Okay, that's
funny.
That's
In college, one of the guys went as sperm, and there were two of them. Right, one was an X and one was a Y or something. And they palled around.
Beat that, John Clark.
That was great.
That sounds like Woody Allen's Sleeper movie. But I won't try to beat the sperm costume. I have never dressed up in that fashion. I think I haven't been a big participant in Halloween in my adult life, but as a kid one year in the 70s, dating myself, I was a robot, and I created my own robot costume out of an old cardboard box, and I used Christmas lights, and I put them all around the box. And, now you might carry a battery around, but I think I had to go door to door with my lights unlit, and maybe I plugged in at the house. Unfortunately, I didn't electrocute myself, so I could be here with you now to tell that boring story.
Did you have Walkman on?
No, that was even pre-Walkman.
Okay, that was pre-Walkman.
Yeah, but it was created for the time, and I kind of had fun walking around in a box as a robot.
I think that I had this same experience, although I definitely wasn't as creative as you with the light. Yeah, but I did make a robot with some foil and boxes, or a lot of foil and a lot of boxes, and that's probably my favorite. Graham, have you been dressed as an ovum or anything like that to
I hate to sound so boring about this, but I've never dressed in a Halloween costume in my life.
Oh, you're kidding.
Never done it. I mean, in the UK, Halloween it's not quite as big a thing as it is here in the States. And so when I was a kid, there was trick-or-treating, but most of the kids didn't actually get dressed up in any kind of costumes or anything. It was a very It was a very low-key, as you might expect from the Brits. It was a very low-key kind of understated affair.
So they would go trick-or-treating without dressing up? That's cheating.
Yeah.
They eat Cadbury's every day.
One particularly uninspired Halloween, I recall going out as a plainclothes detective. That was the level of my creativity. Easy peasy, yeah. Not exactly in the spirit.
I'm going to tell the audience your best costume, and I can't believe you didn't pick it.
Go ahead.
You're not going to tell them?
It is. I went out. This was recently at a party. I went as Ruth Bader Ginsburg, and
he was.
If Tim Donner was here, he couldn't even say the words without going into conniption fits. It so delighted him. With let's go around the horn, everybody. You can. Worst treat and ever received, and favorite candy. I'll ask you, Dave Patterson, first.
Okay, the worst treat I ever got was a caramel apple. You might think that sounds like a good deal, but the caramel just dripped all over the rest of the candy, and it was really sticky and awful, and it just wiped out nearly half the candy I had in the sack.
Ooh.
Favorite candy, though, Rolos and Tootsie Rolls.
I haven't had a Rolo in a minute. That's a good recall. Lisa Donna?
Okay, well, I loved Butterfinger and Baby Ruth, but because, again, I was in Pittsburgh, we mostly had Clark bars and Zagnut bars. If anybody remembers them, Zagnuts had coconut on the outside.
Toasted coconut, for the record. And
did you like them?
And that makes a big difference. That was my father's favorite candy bar, as a matter of fact, which is why I know about it. And unlike the raw coconut of a Mounds or Almond Joy, it's much easier on the palate for those of us that are not, generally speaking, pro-coconut. What about worst ever candy got, Lise?
Oh, okay. Well, it was an apple. I thought, cut me a break. We're out here for the candy,
Exactly right. It's un-American. John Clark?
Space stuff up, yeah.
Actually, I think candy cigarettes are the worst because no matter what I did, they wouldn't stay lit. They tasted like chalk with coloring in them, and so did those Necco wafers thing.
Oh, yeah.
I think, though, I'm a coconut guy, so I think probably Mounds when I was more of a candy eater. I really like coconut, so that would be my answer.
Graham, do the toffee shops come out with anything special over there for Halloween treats?
They may do now, but in all the years I've been away, they might do. I'm sure they probably do now, but I don't really recall that. I mean, when I was a kid, I think the worst treats I ever got, and I can't even remember what these are called. They're very small candies. They're kind of almost triangle shaped, and they're soft, and they're kind of orange or orangey yellow or something, and they were just tasteless, and I can't even remember.
Candy corn.
Yeah.
Anyway, they were dreadful. And my favorite was, actually, coconut has been mentioned a lot. My favorite was in the UK, they used to have a thing called a Bounty. And it was, and it came in a little long tray, and it was 2 pieces of...
It's Mounds. Yeah, it's the same thing. Yeah,
it's kind of like Mounds, but without don't Mounds have like a nut in them or something? Some kind of nut.
Graham, Almond Joy has nuts. Mounds don't.
Oh, okay.
Sometimes you feel like a
nut,
and sometimes you
don't.
And Bounty bars came with and without nuts as well. They were red and blue.
Right, that's right. They did. That's right. I remember that now. The red and blue. Yeah, I used to like the blue ones. Yeah.
Well, I will close it out and say that for me, the worst is Mallow Cup, because it's not the best treat, which is Reese's Cup. And the best Reese's Cup you can get, and I think I've got maybe one of these in my entire Halloween career, a 4-pack. You get the individual ones, you get the 2-pack. You're living in the tall cot, and then every once in a while, God's shining on you, you get that jumbo 4-pack of Reese's Cups. But thank you so much, panel. And just a word about... tying it back to our mission of always with the truth. Almost every local news story will run a story about how there's a danger in Halloween candy to your kids. That's a lie. There is no danger to your kids for Halloween. These stories of like razor blades and apples and all, they're made up for clicks, and so don't you believe them. Just let your good sense be your guide. Thanks so much for joining us. Happy Halloween. We'll see you next time on the C5. That's it for our Conservative 5 panel today. Check out our other C5 shows and segments on your favorite video platform. YouTube, Vimeo, Rumble, we're on them all. I'm your host, Scott Cosenza, sitting in for Ellen Sarah Cowgill. Thanks for joining us today for the latest news and commentary. Free thinking, free speech, LibertyNation.com.